Hey everyone! Welcome back to Rima Reads. So today I'm going through my very late March wrap up as well as my April wrap up. I might split this into two videos so it's super long, we'll see. But anyways, in March I read 11 books, woo! But then in April I only read 4, so like, it balances out, I guess. The first book I read in the month of March is The House on the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune, which, I mean, everybody on BookTube loves this book. Like, it is so hype, and for good reason, because I loved it too. I didn't know too much going into this book in terms of summary, and I kind of really liked it that way. All I knew about it was that it was a cute, adorable book. And it really was. I loved it so much. It's about this caseworker, Linus Baker, who's like a caseworker in the Department of Magical Youth. And one day he gets sent to this house in the Cerulean Sea to work on a case there. And it's adorable. It's so cute. And I loved it. And it brought me so much joy. I get why people really love this book. It's like an adult novel, but it's written in such a fun, whimsical style that it's like reminiscent of children's books. So it just like, it makes you happy while reading it, and it just has a really cute found family, and it's adorable. It's definitely like a character-based book. If you like plot, there's not much in here, but I just enjoyed it. I needed something like light like this, and so loved it. 5 stars. Definitely a reread book for me, and it was great. I loved it. I loved it so much. So the next book I read in the month of March is Know My Name by Chanel Miller. And if you don't know who Chanel Miller is, she is the woman who was raped by Brock Turner on Stanford's campus, and her victim letter that she wrote basically sparked this whole national conversation on sexual assault victims. And this is her memoir, and it takes place from that night up until like 2 years when her trial is finally completed. And this is easily one of the best memoirs I have ever read in my life. It is so good. Chanel is an amazing writer, and she really makes you understand everything that she was going through. And not only that, she also connects what happens to her in this larger like context of the criminal justice system in America and what's broken with that, and the Trump era of politics where you can have a president who's literally sexually assaulted people, and she connects her own trauma and struggle to a whole larger range of things. And also the way that she talks, like, I sobbed so much in this book, but it was a very important read. I meant to only read for an hour before I went to bed, and I ended up staying up until 2 a.m. and finished this entire book in one night because Chanel's voice is just so strong and she had so much to say, and I literally could not put it down, and I was just sobbing and reading, and it was a phenomenal book. I highly recommend it, but it's also really triggering. So like, I can't say everyone should read it because it would be, it's a difficult read. It's not something you can go into lightly. It's a very difficult read. But I also think it is one of the best memoirs I've ever read in my life, and I highly recommend it. There are just so many amazing things that Chanel has to say in this book. The next book I read was Thorn by Intizar Kahani. So this is a fairy tale retelling. It's a fairy tale retelling of the Goose Girl fairy tale, which I had never ever heard about. I like Wikipedia'd it before I read this book. Maybe I shouldn't have, and some of the plot twists would have been more fun. So our main character is a princess, and she lives in a very abusive castle. Her mom and brother are abusive, and her father's like dead or something. We don't really know. But one day she gets basically betrothed to this prince from another kingdom. And so on her way over to this other kingdom, she gets cursed by one of her traveling companions, and then that girl takes her place, like, they swap bodies and she takes her place, and the princess is turned into this traveling companion. So when she gets to the kingdom where she's supposed to be betrothed to the prince, since she looks like this traveling companion, she ends up working in a goose stable as a goose girl. And so that's like basic fairy tale summary plot. And it's really interesting because our princess really likes being a goose girl. She finds it very freeing from her old life of being abused and this new life that she could have had of being married to a prince she didn't know. So I really thought that was super interesting, of examining that dynamic and seeing how freed she was from being a goose girl. I thought they had some really good themes in this book about femininity and identity, which I thought was explored pretty well in here. The thing I didn't really care about was like the prince. There's like I don't know if this is spoilers or not, but like it's a fairy tale, so you know she's gonna end up with a prince at the end, I guess. And I just like didn't care about him. I didn't care about that stuff. There's like this whole side plot line about how like women in the town that she's in goes missing, and there's like a rebel gang who's like out here like killing the people who take these women. And I was like, that's such a cool plot line. Can we focus on that more? I don't care about the prince. Yeah, so overall, like, it was a fun read, but I wasn't super engaged. I feel like if this book wasn't a fairy tale retelling, or if they didn't stick so strictly to the fairy tale, I would have liked it better. Because there are some things that I was like, I don't care for this part. There was a much more interesting plot hook here that I would have preferred we explore and go down. I ended up giving Thorn 3.5 stars. Definitely interesting read, but I just wish there was a little bit more in there. The next book, or books, because this is going to count as 4, is the Binti Trilogy by Nnedi Okorafor. So this version of Binti, I said 4 books, even though it's a complete trilogy, is it actually contains a very short story in between the first and the second novella. So that's why I'm counting it as 4. The first book in this trilogy is Binti, and I really don't know how to summarize this because it's like 70 pages long, and so any summary I give would just spoil the entire book. But I think Binti is a very solid novella. It's has a lot going for it. There's a lot in it. I just really wish it was a full-length novel. Like, the 70 pages could have easily been 300 pages with the same exact plot line, and we just spend more time with the characters a little, and I think it would have been wonderful. And so I genuinely wish that Binti was longer. I think a lot of stuff would have been more impactful if you spent more time with the characters, and you'd really get to feel more for Binti and her struggles if it was a longer novel. But it's kind of hard for me to judge such short novels. So Binti, the first one, 4 stars. It's a solid read. I mean, it'll take you guys like an hour, so maybe everyone should read it. And then the next part in this trilogy is the short story, actually, that takes place between the first and second book, and it's called Binti's Sacred Flame. It just adds a little depth, I think, to this second novella in this series, and it like explores a little bit of Binti's trauma. I thought it was good. Again, it's so hard for me to like rank something that's 30 pages. The second novella in this trilogy is Binti Home, and that was my favorite of the 3. Binti ends up going back to her home planet and exploring, the ramifications of what happened in the first novella, and her like trying to fit back in with her family and this society. So there's a lot going for that. I really liked seeing Binti's home. I thought the novella did a good job exploring her trauma. I'd say it's my favorite of the 3. It was like 200 pages long, so definitely longer, and you had more time with the characters, which I really liked. So that one was another 4-star read. And then the third one in this series is Binti Night Masquerade, which takes place immediately after the events of the second novella. Again, it's about 200 pages, and I really don't know how to summarize that plot either without a lot of spoilers, but I thought it was a good ending to the series. I feel like there was a lot going on there, though, for such a short novella. Again, it was like 200 pages, and there was just a lot of different plot threads and things that I definitely think could have benefited from being a longer novel. So overall, I gave the third installation a 3.5 stars. But overall, I really liked the Binti Trilogy. I think it's very unique. There's a lot of cool stuff in here. I just wish they were longer, honestly. That's my big thing. They should be longer. So the next book I read is Goddess in the Machine by Laura Beth Johnson. So this book is a sci-fi novel that follows our main character, Andra, who was basically put in cryosleep with her family to make this journey to a new planet. And she's supposed to wake up on this new planet with her entire family and all the rest of the explorers. But what actually happens is she wakes up thousands and thousands of years later. I don't actually know how many years, but a long time later. All her family is gone. She's the only one, and the culture on this planet actually worships her as a goddess because they've like seen her in this cryosleep container forever, and they believe she's gonna like save them all. She's woken up by this character Zaid, who is a prince in this culture, country, whatever, an exiled prince, and he basically wakes her up, trying to get back his princehood, trying to get back into the city that he was exiled from. And yeah, so it was a fun sci-fi novel. There were parts of it I really, really liked. I liked Andra. There were some tropey YA things in here, but there were also some really good plot twists that I did not catch, which was fun. But the main thing that I did not like about this book was Zaid. Basically, because it's been thousands of years, the linguistics in this, like, the way they speak in this new world is different than how we speak. So the author created, like, a new dialect of English. Basically, some of the words were changed. So instead of saying something like, "What's the matter?" you'd say something like, "What's the meteor?" And some other words here or there are changed, and some of the verbs were changed. Like, she kept adding ing to a lot of different words. And it's fine when we're in Andra's chapters and it's just the dialogue that's changed like this, like the dialogue of other people speaking. But when we're in Zaid's chapters, the entire chapter is written in this new English. And I hated it. I hated it so much. Every time I read we got to a Zaid chapter, I would get immediately taken out of the story, and then I'd have to spend a couple of pages getting back into it, getting used to this new dialogue, and I hated it so much. Like, I don't even know if I like Zaid as a character, because every time his chapters would come up, I'd be like, ugh, I don't want to read this. So I hate Zaid, even though I don't know if I would if his chapters were written normally. There was a lot of cool stuff in here. There were, like I mentioned, some really cool plot twists in here. The story was solid, even though there were tropey YA things, but those chapters, I could not handle them. And therefore, I ended up giving this book a 3.5 stars, which I feel like might be generous. Maybe I should give it a 3. Like, thinking back on how much I hated those chapters. And I don't know if I'll continue it. Like, I want to know what happens, but I don't want to read those Zaid chapters. So I might just end up reading a plot summary whenever the second book comes out. So yeah. Hey y'all, future editing Rima here. This video ended up being pretty long, so I'm going to split it into 2 parts. So this will be the end of part 1. Thank you all for watching. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what your thoughts are. Bye!